hot video games. They're trending and they're really popular right now, guys. We'll see if it's a fad.
There's a reason none of us are on camera.
Slack.
There's a few of us that are on camera.
Hashtag
Not
gamers.
Me, but
Z.
Sam on camera?
Oh, right. Sorry.
I have the microphone.
Sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, so it's like that.
Professionals. We need some
Pro. You guys
Throwing
are
the gauntlet
pro.
down before we even get started.
Yeah.
Are you MLG pro?
Great.
None of us are.
Seems like you're like on camera a lot.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been starting to go on more and more. Like, initially it was
I'll
like,
do my best. I don't know. I'm like the worst person to be an unbiased judge here, though.
Slowly? 3 days.
Well, and also because I am a developer. That's why I had
lately it's been more and more. Hey, Alex Aziz.
You go that way, you know, like you
What's
start
up?
like
My taco dog.
Yeah. Just start kicking. I mean, I got like a direct drive down the floor here.
Yeah.
I really want to call some damage.
You can't get that third one down.
My teammate.
We got a bouncer and stuff.
So I'm gonna do that.
They're late. They missed the panel.
This is what happens. You come back and
This is now in.
What a disaster this is going to be.
it always
Not
was.
necessary.
This was just a thinly veiled
Phone
skies.
messenger.
I did.
He called you Andy Mesmer. Love it. 10 out of 10.
Fucking
Where's Andy?
Tall one.
Andy not here?
There you go.
I saw Andy Messner earlier. He just exists, right?
He's attached to his beard.
I saw him down the hallway. Huh?
He's attached
But
to
his
his
beard is
beard.
doing stuff.
Yeah?
He's just there.
His beard's making the moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of stuff being stuck in your beard.
Body's just on for the run.
Boy, crank up the AC, you know what I'm saying? Are you in control of that, Casey?
Yeah. If you just got to say it into this microphone, and then they'll do it.
Air condition, go.
Alexa, turn on the air conditioning.
Xbox AC.
I think we're early still. All right, never mind.
Technically, there's 6 minutes.
6 minutes early.
We're early.
Peyton,
What?
what's up?
Hey, what's up? Nothing much.
Cool.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you hot right now?
Yeah, I'm a little steamy.
What are some good places to eat in Austin?
There is Gus's Fried Chicken across the street. There is what was that?
HEB has the sweet mac and cheese. You really like?
I've never eaten mac and cheese, nor will I ever eat mac and cheese. Thank you.
How much mac and cheese have you gotten?
Is this a fucking way to panel?
So this is the actual panel. We're mac and cheese and Big Mac, and it's just against Andy.
Oh yeah.
This is the mac and cheese lover panel.
Is this what it really is? Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
It's really just a fucking.
This is just intervention to Andy.
No.
I'm sure we can
Alexa, drop the intervention banner.
We'll take questions at the end of the panel.
Will we? Nick Schwartz was like, "Hey, should I take some mac and cheese in a Tupperware?" It's like that sounds awful.
That sounds like the worst idea of all
A
time.
Big Mac and mac and cheese, just putting it in front of you. Like, settle this now. Let's get it out of the way.
Terrible, dude.
It's been sitting in my car for a week.
How have you never had mac and cheese? Like,
That's a joke, right?
No.
One of the old Cortez bits.
No, man. No. So Louis Medina made a great point. He was like, you know what? Mac and cheese is a very, very normal thing for a Caucasian family to eat all the time. And I am not white.
Brian, you're right. He really knows how to stick with this bit.
It was like tortillas and beans for me, man. That was
Still
my
sticking with his bit.
Yeah.
Now to the real topic of this panel: racial stereotypes.
you were never curious, like what it tasted like?
No, man.
Not even in college.
In college, I didn't experiment at all. No.
She's curious.
Nor have you eaten the Whopper or Big Mac.
You guys are allowed to sit in the first 3 rows, by the way. Says who? I'm declaring fucking anarchy right now. Move to the front.
Oh no.
Now.
He did it.
Chris and Mary had guardians. I had nothing to do with this.
If this is a problem, Guardians, blame me. It's my fault.
There are no VIPs at this panel.
Andy, I saw that you finally caught up on the Fast and the Furious franchise. Can I get like a rating?
No.
Fast and the Furious is better than Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane combined.
That's true.
Hey,
I'd agree with you on that.
guy in the so that guy standing up next to you, if you can make him as uncomfortable as possible the entire time, that would be great.
What?
Good job.
I am.
Citizen Kane didn't even have Kane in it. It's a wrestling joke.
Am I what?
WWE.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Nick Flair.
That's just
they're
the
there.
blue.
You just can't see.
It's just the blue.
Undercarriage.
Undercarriage.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm really excited
Paul
for
Bear.
Sonic Mania. Just want to let you know.
All there. Well, watch out. Don't do yourself. Back there.
He's got to go fast. Was it Sonic in? That was just an accident. Like Sonic.
Question for the panel. Has anyone on the panel been pooped on by a bird today?
Today.
Yeah, Jeb.
I took it. Well, you know, I took
It's
it
an
as an
achievement.
omen for how this panel was going to go. So strap in, you guys.
Was it like the hair? Or like
Time to
That
shit
was just
on
my
Jeff.
shoulder.
Just like old times.
I miss you, Jeff. Miss you, man.
Yeah, do you? Thanks for sitting on the opposite fucking end.
Love you, dog.
So there are 12 of you with 4 mics. How are you going to rectify that problem?
Violence.
screaming?
Screaming.
We're going to make the best of it.
I mean, this room is so large and there's so many people in the back that you can just talk loud, you know?
Yeah.
What?
We're just
I
gonna
can't
talk
hear you
loud.
down here. Louder, into the mic, Andy.
Shut up, Ben.
You can take the mic off.
Yeah.
I need a wireless mic, please. I'm just gonna walk in front.
We don't have any wireless mics. I'm sorry.
Man.
These fucking celebrities, man.
Can you read it from here?
Yeah.
2 months away from Rooster Teeth. Your head's gotten this big.
3 months, Jeff.
3 months?
I wish you fucking knew, dude.
God.
It's gotten as big as this cardboard cutout.
How's the cardboard cutout doing? Is it still...
I thought you took it.
Well, there's still
we
one.
trashed it.
The cardboard cutout of my face. There's still one in the bungalow. Behind the refrigerator, near the brooms, as if it's a fucking just piece of shit that nobody cares about.
I mean,
What's your point?
I'm just
It's where it belongs.
I took that over to
Just
the
having a laugh.
bungalow to have them mail it out to the Kind of Funny guys. And they're like, okay, Brian. And they hit it with the brooms.
yeah, it's just near the Swiffers.
So if your cardboard cutout is there, where would this cardboard cutout be?
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's
Non-existent.
non-existent. No, hell no.
What my favorite part of
Let me
all
ask
this.
you, do you know what my name is? There you go.
My favorite part of all this is that everybody on this panel has, like, if you look on the app, it says Andy Cortez, Kind of Funny, Casey Donnellan, Rooster Teeth, Brian Riley, Rooster Teeth. Everybody has Rooster Teeth under their names, and then Jeff has Game Developer, which is the most Jeff thing to ever happen. Like, if y'all have watched Parks and Rec, and Gary
Okay.
Gergen.
No.
No, we
Stop
don't do
right
that.
there. Shut the fuck up.
Love you, Jeff.
And on that note,
Can't
should
wait
we
to see
start
you get
the
married,
panel,
man.
Maybe talk about games.
All right.
Are we good? Can we go? We streaming? 5. Cool.
5 o'clock
well,
somewhere.
welcome to the Gaming Year in Review shit show / panel. The idea for this kind of came up because there's a lot of platforms for developers to talk out. There's a lot of platforms for gamers to talk out. But there's not as many opportunities for those two to converse with one another. And at Rooster Teeth, we are uniquely positioned to have people from both of those groups who are really dedicated and interested in talking about the gaming industry and all the goings-on in it. So if you've ever seen shows like Pardon the Interruption, Around the Horn, any number of British panel shows, that's kind of the vibe that we're going for here. We've got 6 topics, a crap load of panelists, and I have a strict 5-minute time limit that I'm going to keep on my phone here. And we're going to speak about a topic for 5 minutes and then move on. And then at the end, we'll take some topics from the audience. And just to keep it fun, at the end of every topic, we'll award some points. And at the end, we'll award a winner, either the devs or the players. Sound good?
What do the winners get?
Just bragging rights and unending love and
I was told there would be
Andy's
money.
cardboard cutout.
So I thought the winners get to beat up Andy.
well, I mean, we're going to do that anyway. So real quickly, you guys, just down the line, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Oh, we're going to start with me? I'll spill water. Fuck it. I'm Sam. I work for Screw Attack. I do stuff with video games and etc. That's a good enough intro.
Do we maybe hold on, Ben? Do we maybe want to hold applause until everybody's done because there's gonna be a lot of clapping?
Yeah, and also no interruptions in the middle of the introductions, please. All right, let's go. We don't have much time.
I'm Ben. I work for the broadcast department in Rooster Teeth. I do editing, production assistant stuff, and I'm also the side glitch for Glitch Please.
I'm Peyton. I also work in broadcast. I direct Always Open and edit.
Hello, I'm Alan. I work in the comp department on Ruby and RVB and stuff.
My name is Sean. I'm on the animation team. I'm one of the character riggers.
My name is Jarrett. I'm a programmer in the animation department, and previously I worked at EA on Madden and NCAA.
Associate myself on this side.
My name is Will Venice. I'm an engineer, and I worked on Ruby Grim Eclipse.
Brian Riley. I watch a lot of YouTube videos and have a Trello board. Looks like lots of stuff going on. Nothing going on.
Nothing going on.
Producer on the games team.
Hi, I'm Brian Mom. I'm a programmer on the tech team for animation previously, since we're naming credits, Jarrett. Star Wars The Old Republic, the Banner Saga, and Tabletop Simulator.
I know you worked on Banner Saga. That's cool.
Let's talk about that.
I'll just use our microphone. Yeah. I'm Casey Denellen. I'm a game developer at Rooster Teeth.
I wanted everybody to hold applause because I was going to be the last one to be named, so it sounds like they're all clapping for me. My name is Andy, and I work for Kinda Funny, and I used to be on the games team with Rooster Teeth. I was an artist, and now I just forgot all about Jeff.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and start with the first topic. Boo! Sit down! This is my panel! And our first topic is going to be E3 2017. So less than a month ago, the gaming industry gathered in Los Angeles for their annual blowout convention. However, with news and reveals playing less of a role than in years past, some are wondering if E3 is more relevant, or if E3's most relevant days are behind it. Let's start with the devs. What were your biggest takeaways from E3 this year, and what do you see as the future for the convention?
E3 is shit.
Yeah.
Starting off with the hot takes.
Topic over. Next.
No, I think E3 is still very relevant because obviously they're doing all these reveals and stuff there. But like it's definitely not what it was like X amount of years ago when it was like the holy mecca of gaming. Like everyone let's do some pilgrimage towards there. Especially with like the rise of all these other conventions, there can also do a lot of reveals and news stuff at. So I don't know. I think it's still pretty great though. I haven't been yet.
Are we still talking from the dev side, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been to 3 different E3s. It's pretty fun. Actually, it's a great way to meet other developers and also for the developers to actually communicate with media. That's actually something pretty hard to do, believe it or not, especially when it's a big AAA studio. I don't like that E3 is opened up to the public. I think that is more of a PAX kind of thing. It's a little bit nicer to have more smaller crowds and a little bit more intimate setting to kind of network and meet people.
What about the players? Were you guys excited from this year's E3? Did you have any big takeaways?
I went to E3. I got to do a panel for GameSpot. I don't think they knew who I was, and I think that's why I got there. But with it being open to the public, like it was just the most claustrophobic experience I've had at a convention ever. And like it was great, but I honestly think that with the way Nintendo Treehouse has gone and et cetera, it's still going to be a thing for a while, but I don't think they need it. If Twitch or YouTube came in and was like, look, we're just going to do a weekend, host all of your release announcements, and we'll just do everything online, they could all save millions of dollars and we could all watch and it would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just for from an attendee perspective, I haven't been to E3, but a lot of the coverage we've been looking at it lately has been a lot of cost phobia and issues with players and lining and like people spending 6 hours in line just to play one game or even more. But I think it's either going to lean toward more of a Gamescom perspective where it's like there's days that's just for press and then there's days for just like fans to come and try out games, and it's either going to go that way or it's going to go back to just the developers.
Is there anything lost by all of these like reveals and news and stuff getting spread out over the year as opposed to all happening in one weekend, which is a little bit closer than what it used to be?
Yeah, I think it's pretty telling that. So Sony revealed a lot of cool shit this year, but one notable studio that was missing was Sucker Punch, and everybody was wondering where Sucker Punch's game was. And then Sony then later revealed, hey, we got stuff for Sucker Punch later, and it's most likely that they were holding out that reveal for PSX 2017, which will be in December. And so I think that's it's getting sort of diluted, and you're seeing that E3 is not necessarily the main destination for all of these studios. Like they have all of these. There's PSX and there's all the PAXs and there's even Rooster Teeth. Rooster Teeth conference is blowing up, and I heard it's pretty cool. I've never been there yet though. But yeah, I do think it's getting a little diluted, and E3 might be a little bit worried. I think that's why they invited the public this year.
I think some of that also is due to. I mean, I've been in the famous. It's not talked a lot about, but a lot of developers go through serious crunch at E3, especially like 5 years ago. It was the big event, and because of not every there's other ways to present your games and other opportunities. It's not every developer and their brother is like crunching like mad to get something to show, and that's probably why Sucker Punch wasn't there, because they just decide, hey, we're not going to crunch.
EA has pulled out of E3. They just decided they're going to do their own thing. It just happens to be the day before E3. So I think we're going to see a lot more things like that. I mean, what if Sony decided to pull out of E3 and just have their own thing? E3 would be dead.
So you think E3 is going to be like less about these big conferences and more just like the exhibition hall that they all circle around?
Yeah, it's just like it's a date. It's like everybody has come together and decided they're going to unveil all of their stuff in mid-June.
And real quick, does anyone have any thoughts on what Devolver Digital did during this year's E3?
Hilarious.
I thought it was great. It was the best conference out of all of them. It was just how fucking savagely they roasted just games as a whole. I thought that was really great, because I think games need something like that, because I think even though they're games, I think the industry itself kind of takes itself a little too seriously. So I thought what Devolver did was actually really great, and just mocked all that.
Great. Moving on. So next topic in March. Who won?
Yeah.
Point to the players because they didn't fucking ask.
Ooh. Oh, okay. I see how that's going.
Joking. We're friends. There's like a hush fell over the crowd. Point to the players.
Take him off our team.
In March of this year, after a quick and some might say lukewarm run up to launch, Nintendo released its latest console. Thus far, the Switch has been a massive success, becoming the fastest selling console in the company's history and receiving rave reviews for its launch title, Breath of the Wild. Starting with the players, what's your opinion of Nintendo's new mobile console platform idea, and is Breath of the Wild the best launch title ever?
Yes.
Moving on.
I love the Switch. It's amazing. Even just here at RTX, I'm able to play it while waiting for panels, and I'm able to play Breath of the Wild. Not just another handheld game. It's a console quality game I can just play wherever I want. I hope other companies don't try and compete with this, honestly. Because if we have Xbox and Sony trying to do this at the same time, having three of those kind of going around, I hope that doesn't turn into that kind of competition with how successful it's been. But Breath of the Wild, when that was released, it was just like, oh, well, that's it, I'm done. I'm going to do this for the next 3 weeks. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, I was. Whenever it came out, I was super skeptical. I'd been skeptical because the Wii U didn't really sell me on Nintendo. And so then, I got Switch, went home, played it. My Zelda had a little slowdown. I was not sold. And then it did something. I took a bubble bath with the Switch. Killed it. Best handheld console ever. I still think it's not a good console, but as far as a handheld goes, it is the absolute best one I've ever played. And yeah, Zelda's, I mean, dude, as far as games I've played in the bathtub, Zelda is at the top of this list by the hugest margin ever. So yeah, that's my opinion.
Devs, how do you react to Sam saying that the Switch is not a good console?
It's a bad console, great handheld.
I would agree. Personally, so I try to play just about everything that comes out, or the big notes for the year. For me, for now, I feel like the Switch is just a great Zelda machine, because I'll put 20, 30 minutes or a few hours into any game, and I'll dive into maybe a handful for the year. Persona 5 came out, I played it a little bit, didn't care for the mechanics, too antiquated. That's another topic.
Damn. Whoa.
Beautiful world. But with Zelda, great thing, dove into it, played it like crazy. But the system itself, it's old tech, but I can take it places. It's the new 3DS, which is fine. Because it is only the Zelda machine, I think our team was like, why would we look into Switch for porting games to it for now? Because it's new, there's just not a big player base there. But I think for work, we're not taking it serious yet. So I think that's.
So you're not excited at all to develop anything for the Switch?
There's other platforms that have millions and millions of people. Although people are itching for stuff for the Switch. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I am, and my dust collector was like.
I think that if Nintendo is trying to correct the problems they've had in the past of not a lot of third-party support on their console, they're not going to accomplish that with the Switch. But they're going to have a lot of good games for it, I'm sure. I mean, I love it. All I have is Zelda, and I'm completely happy with it. So,
I think that's what's going to not kill the Switch, because the Switch is going to be fine with its first-party games, but I want third-party games I could just pick up and go somewhere with. That's what would make the Switch a killer console for me. Right now, I pick up Zelda, maybe I'll go somewhere, I'll be on a plane, I'll play it for a little while, but then it's just been sitting in my dock for however long it's been since it came out. I'll play Mario Kart with some friends when they come over, but for the most part, I think it's on the devs for who's going to bring a good game to this that'll be a bring anywhere play.
I think a telltale sign for me is that whenever a game comes out now on Xbox and PS4, I just think to myself, man, if this were on the Switch, because I don't love my setup at home, so I love being able to take the Switch wherever I go. They're $2.99 guys. They're sold at Best Buy. I have stock in Nintendo actually. No, I don't. I mean, I kind of disagree with the game selection. I do think that the games have come out. I put in 110 hours into Zelda. I've put in 50 hours into Mario Kart. And then Odyssey's going to come around, and that's going to be a huge hit. Will I try out Splatoon 2? Probably, but it doesn't seem like a game for me.
But these are all first-party Nintendo games.
Sure. I mean, third parties for me are going to be on probably my Xbox One X whenever that comes out, because I'll have a 4K TV and all that shit. But, I mean, you can already tell that FIFA has been watered down for the Switch, so I think that's kind of a telltale sign of what's going to happen to Switch games that get ported, where they're going to be a little bit lesser in quality. But I love my Switch, dude. I fucking love that shit.
I actually have a question for the devs, because from what I've heard, and I could be completely wrong, I'm not smart, the Switch is made primarily on an Android framework. Do you think if they were able to, say, port over a lot of the hit Android games that there are, would that make it more popular and worth it?
No.
There you go.
There's actually a rhythm game on there called Voez. Is really good. I don't know. I really like rhythm games, and there are a lot of excellent rhythm games on Android. Could port over those kinds of things.
Bring back the Ouya.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to some similar consoles to the Ouya, the PS4 and Xbox One X. November of 2016, Sony released the PS4 Pro, an upgrade to their console hardware, offering, among other things, improved VR performance, 4K rendering, and HDR support. Microsoft followed suit at this year's E3 by unveiling the Xbox One X, obviously, similarly styled upgrade. Starting with the devs, what do you think of this recent trend of releasing hardware upgrades sort of mid-console generation?
Honestly, like, it's cool that, they're more powerful and everything, and they can, pump out higher resolutions and stuff, but you still have to create a game for the base console. Like, it still has to run on that. So, for me, it doesn't really change the game, really. I don't know. It's like a PC upgrade that can't run anything better, if that makes sense.
It actually makes developing a little bit more difficult because you've got to, like Will said, you have to develop for the base game because you can't sell a game that only runs on the PS4 Pro. So you have to get all of that in, and then you have to develop all of the optional stuff for the Pro and make sure that it works perfectly on both. So it's kind of like supporting an iPhone 6 and an iPhone 5 if you're developing an app. It's just it's more trouble, but you can do cooler stuff.
It's a frickin' headache.
So for the players, are you excited about these consoles? Are you interested in buying any of them? Do you already have one, possibly?
The most exciting thing about the 0.5 consoles for me is that it makes the other ones cheaper. Because I currently don't have a PS4 and I really want one. And having a PS4 Pro out means that drops the price at least by like $50. And every holiday, probably another $50. But yeah, I have no interest in buying a PS4 Pro because to get to that point, I'd have to get a 4K TV. I'd have to probably get surround sound to actually make use of the features of the PS4 Pro or whatever, surround sound or HDR TV and stuff like that. How much difference could you possibly find in upscaling an already massively HD experience? It's diminishing returns on that kind of thing.
Right.
I have no interest in.
Like the devs said, since they still have to account for the base version, the pro version of a game can't really be that much better. Especially to justify paying the price of a new console for not a new console upgrade. It just doesn't seem that worth it.
Does anybody here have a PS4 Pro? Or?
I have a Pro only because I never owned a standard PS4, and I figured might as well get something that can put out a little bit better resolution. Now, I tried Horizon on. Horizon has the 4K mode or the smoother running mode, and I didn't notice a fucking difference, dude.
I'm curious, anybody in the audience, do you guys have a PS4 Pro? Wow. One. We got one, two. Three. Whoa.
Don't be shy, guys. Don't be shy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually a player that'll jump right into first day purchases, but I think this might be one of the first consoles I hold off on. I'm kind of interested to see, if you look at the comparison between 1080 gaming right now and in 64 gaming, it's light and day difference. I'm hoping as more and more 4K content comes out, maybe people start seeing that difference in how upscaled it can be and how much better playing through. I don't if Skyrim got 4K textures, you'd see so much more detail, which is really cool.
We don't need another Skyrim release.
We don't. We really, God, don't. But I don't know. This just doesn't seem worth it for me right off the bat. I'll wait till the first or second even price drop.
So what about VR? Does that throw any wrenches into this situation? The fact that maybe VR is much better on the Pro or not?
Okay, so I bought an Oculus. I love VR. It's not worth it. It's cool and shit. It's awesome, but no. Go to Disneyland, have an experience. The same thing as getting a VR.
Damn.
Any response from the devs? Is VR worth it? That wasn't really what this topic was supposed to be about, but hey, we've got a minute left.
I think that if I were going to buy a VR setup, instead of spending $400 on a Pro and then another $300 on a headset, I would just buy a Vive for about the same amount of money.
Another thing on the development side is the market. We've talked about market on the Switch. Well, there's even a smaller market. That's VR.
I would say I have a Vive, and it's just there's not enough mainstream stuff for it. I've picked up some of the first day titles for it. It's a lot of fun. I've rearranged my room like 12 times just to have the space to use the fucking thing. But since I've actually put a bed in my room, I don't have the space for it. Kind of touch that.
Times are tough for Ben.
Times are tough. We'll talk about it later.
I thought these were gamers over here.
Yeah, you guys are agreeing.
I don't know.
Oh no, the battery's gone.
Be more inflammatory.
Of course, just Mike.
I'll just project. All right.
Bring back the virtual boy.
Next topic. No Man's Sky. This should foster some disagreement, hopefully. No Man's Sky was released in August of last year and garnered a divisive reception. Some players felt the developers were misleading in their description of the game and had promised an experience that it simply could not live up to. Open question for both players and devs. How can developers manage player expectations without compromising excitement over their games? And also, where did No Man's Sky go wrong? Or did they go wrong?
The No Man's Sky devs should have tempered the expectations of No Man's Sky, way before it blew out of proportion.
Yeah, No Man's Sky feels exactly what I assume. Being in the 80s and having two movie developers do a ton of cocaine and bolster each other's egos about their own movie. It's that's the exact story. Sony and Sean Murray were just sitting there just telling each other it's the greatest thing in the world until they sold it to us and we were like, nah. I mean, I had tempered, resolve because I've played randomly generated stuff before. You kind of know, but yeah. They sold a lot of people a short straw, for sure.
I feel like it hit a point where just gamers just blew up in for what they wanted. This is going to be everything. You're going to be able to do everything. Fly to planets, fight the natives and stake your claim in the planet. And No Man's Sky just did nothing.
But it's got really cool colors, everywhere. It's really pretty. Jeff, I think we do need okay, you got a mic. Okay, good.
Yeah. But I want to hear, specifically from the dev side. I mean, there is a difficult part here, which is that you want people to ultimately play your game, and you want to keep them excited, and you want to, without, I think we can maybe agree that No Man's Sky went a little bit too far. But how do you, manage that balance where you want to keep people interested and excited about your game without ultimately giving them a product that's unsatisfying?
So, you had to end on that word, did you? So I was going to relate it a lot to our internal game, Ruby Grim Eclipse, which
is available on Steam right now.
Available on Steam and all consoles. So we went into early access, and as a team, we knew exactly what we were building. But we went into early access, so that invited all this external input. And man, it's just Ruby is such an awesome universe that was created by all these other awesome people over here. But as a player, you could easily just fill in the gaps of where this game should go. But we knew where we were going, and it's kind of hard to message that a year out, saying, "Hey, we're gonna make X," but all the plans are expecting Q, R, and Z, and we just can't make that. We had 8 people on the team, So I feel like No Man's Sky was very similar. They had a pretty small team, but what we didn't have, which was probably good, we didn't have Sony going "This shit's gonna rock," because it was made by a small team, so they could only do so much, and it was randomly generated, so there is a dice roll there.
I think that we did have to clarify a lot of stuff that we are a small team, because there were several comments early on that were "This is Rooster Teeth, they're huge," as if fucking Gavin and Blaine are developing on the game or something like that. I feel for the dev team at No Man's Sky at Hello Games, because the thing that really bummed me out about all of it is I knew that they weren't making this game thinking, we're really going to fuck over these fans. They truly wanted to make an awesome product for everybody. I put in 40 or 50 hours in No Man's Sky. I played a lot of it, right? But I knew what to expect, because I just know that shit's not super possible and at first they had 2 developers working on it. I feel for them because, a lot of the fans made it seem they fucked us over. They knew what they were doing. It's no, dude, they want to make you happy. It's just when the resources aren't there, when the money isn't necessarily there or the time, that's going to happen.
Another part specifically with No Man's Sky is if you're going to try to procedurally generate an entire game, there's going to be a lot of repetitive aspects of it.
But there's 18 quintillion planets, guys.
Here's the thing, though. there aren't.
And you might run into each other. You might see each other in the game.
And I mean, like,
and you couldn't.
Was it one contiguous server, or was it like separate, or?
I don't know. I was an artist. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, just. Long story short, if you're going to procedurally generate anything, like, you're going to start seeing recurring things. Like, even with any like roguelike, you're going to start seeing, oh, look, they reused that texture, or this is the same room I was in but turned slightly to the left. It's the unfortunate nature of where it currently is.
I'm gonna be the villain here.
Whoa! Take it easy, Casey.
I don't think that they lied about anything. I think that the truth was there, and everyone deceived themselves, and they did nothing wrong, and they got that money.
I reversed my boo. That's correct.
I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I reverse that as well.
agree. Yeah, I agree with Casey. I don't think there's anything like. I don't think they said anything too much. It was just everybody. The hype train got real serious for that game, and people bought in hard. So.
I think it was mentioned that someone mentioned about filling in the blanks. I think you mentioned it, Brian, and during the marketing and the trailers and stuff. There was, especially that first initial trailer, there was things just thrown out that it's like, well, it's just a trailer. They haven't announced anything like that. What people's imaginations were going quite wild.
So is there a point when devs need to step in though and say like,
yes,
this fan mentioned there's going to be dinosaurs. Did you?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of that, but devs like to make we don't work in games just because it's just a job to us. It's a very deep passion, and we want to make the best game possible. And sometimes you get a little ambitious.
At some point, though, like if you're working with a partner, though, like they were working with Sony on that, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, like Sony has a pretty big PR team, and I don't know. I feel part of it might have got away from the actual Hello Games team with what the game was being promised.
You have to sell a game, and if your game is like completely random and you can do anything in it, then you show the best and most exciting thing, which is those trailers that they showed at first with a bunch of dinosaurs and spaceships and pretty colors and everything going correct and right, and not just a big boring ball of rock that doesn't have anything in it, which is most of the planets in that game. You say the same thing about like Spelunky or any of the other kind of randomly generated levels. You show a trailer, you make a trailer that is the most exciting thing that can happen in that game.
They agree with you.
Yeah, they're really excited for us.
And I think with No Man's Sky, because it's so infinite and so kind of got such a huge scope to it, the best thing in that game is going to be really, really exciting and cool. The huge, vast majority of it is going to be boring and lame. But you have to sell it, so you're not going to show them the boring part.
Well, when we took screenshots for Grim Eclipse, man, we would take like thousands. Me and Andy Mesner would sit there and rotate through those, and we would put out like 5.
Right. You always put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so next topic, Pokemon Go. For a few brief weeks last summer, the country was captivated by the cultural phenomenon that is Pokemon Go. After single-handedly boosting national park attendance, getting mentioned by both presidential candidates, and breaking up untold friendships over team affiliation, the game faded as quickly as it had come, losing 79% of its players by September. What was behind Pokemon Go's incredible rise and fall, and do you see more games like this coming in the future? Go to the players first.
So the fall was pretty much them. They kept taking the game away. So when it first started out, you could see how far away you were from a Pokemon. You could see like, oh, all right, I took a step, I went this way a little bit. It's getting closer. So you could actually track the Pokemon. And then they took that away, and then people started using tracking websites. And you can be like, oh, well, this is exactly where this Pokemon is. I want to go get this Pokemon. And they made it to where you can't do that anymore. So they just kept making it almost harder and harder to actually get Pokemon in a Pokemon game, and the game itself was fun. Like being able to just be like, oh, I'm just going to go for a walk and play Pokemon and actually have it almost be real. For a little while, it definitely was the hype that it was riding on for a while, but when they started taking away the fun parts of the game, I mean, that's going to happen to anything.
I disagree about why that's why they lost all of their users. I think the game, when it came out, could have been 10 times as good as it is today, and they still would have lost 80% of their users within 2 months, because nostalgia is the reason that game was popular.
Yep.
I mean, it was fun, and I played it too, but yeah, nostalgia just for Pokemon, like, and just the cultural experience of being part of that. They really did something amazing, but it was an amazing thing that just wasn't going to last that long.
That's the most social I'd been in ages. Like walking around with coworkers outside, like not doing work, going outside and walking around the parking lot of Rooster Teeth, and what a good time that was. Obama was still president. It was great, man. It's great.
Sean, just so like what you were saying about the steps, like that was actually a problem with their servers specifically. It was being overloaded because it would have to ping constantly to figure out how far away the Pokemon was. I don't know why they took down the websites, but like some aspects of
Yeah, go ahead.
They took down those websites because it was essentially creating a fake player, so their servers are getting double hit by every website user.
They have bad web coders.
I think the idea of that game was really awesome, and like the social stuff was great. And I think had the game itself been a little bit better, I think there would have been a little more longevity to it. Because, like, I mean, I'm not a game developer, but I feel like if you're making that game, why would you not just put the straight up Pokemon game in it instead of this weird like tap to win or whatever? Like, how hard? Like, I feel like doing the turn-based battles and all of that, and trading with other players and battling other players, all that stuff should have been in that game, but it wasn't. And it was just like kind of like, why are you even like calling this Pokemon then?
I'm going to disagree with that, because there's no way that game would have went mainstream as it did if it was like that. There's just no way. I mean, the president wouldn't be talking about it, and everybody. I mean, that game was a phenomenon. I mean, I've never seen so many people outside like ever. I mean, it was you have old people complaining the parks are too crowded.
Well, yeah, but like I think keep the social stuff there. Like I think the social stuff is what made it popular, and not the game. Like, if you had kept the social stuff and put it with a better game, I think that game would have.
If you bog them down in too many mechanics, they're going to quit it. They're not going to progress any further. It's going to be too complicated. The mobile market is very different in that respect.
That a lot of people don't play like Pokemon in general. Like, granted, it has a huge player base, but like no one over the age of 40 when it came out was playing it. Like, a lot of people were playing Pokemon Go because A, nostalgia mainly, but also B, because it was really easy. Like, moms could play with their kids and they didn't need to understand, like, oh, if it's a fire type, I need to use a water type against it. It's, oh, I can swipe the thing. Look, I caught it. Woohoo. Like, it's simple.
I'd like to see the percentage of players that only caught Pokemon versus like going to gyms and battling, because I think the people that are battling are the hardcore Pokemon fans, and the casual fan who maybe played a Pokemon game once, kind of like me. Like, I was just catching shit. Like, I did the gym stuff for a while, but I think the fun of it was going out and like catching rare things and telling your friend about it at school or work or whatever.
We had like a internal like notification system for when a Pokemon would show up outside stage 5, and then you'd see this mass rush of staff employees running outside for a Kangaskhan.
It was like 104 degrees.
Whatever. I think, and they've definitely doubled down on the social aspect with the whole like raids or whatever. I don't really play Pokemon Go, but I think we're definitely going to see more and more of those games. Like it was a big majority of Pixel's like their conference. Red Camera just dropped a phone announcement where they're coming out with like a $1,500 phone that's going to be mainly VR and AR focused, and I think we'll eventually just see more and more of those, but I don't know how much of a market there is for it.
Sure, it'll sell real well.
Yeah, right.
Without Pokemon.
Also, any game you can play at the bar with your friends will have some amount of success. Like, it's just...
Brian, I know you still play Pokemon Go. What's kept you playing this whole time?
It's kind of like a good long relationship. There's ups and downs, right? So with Pokemon Go, for a while it was awesome when it first came out. We were all like Andy said, you can hear me at my desk, the noise would come on. We'd all go outside. And then it became just an interactive checklist, and I would like shit on the game verbally all the time. but I would still do it every day. And then they kind of added more stuff to it to kind of keep, like, Claire and I, we get out there and we play. That's my girlfriend. We still go out like every day, and they added more to it. There's more to do with all the progress that you've already gained. Do any of you guys still play? One hand. I love it. All right.
Who played today?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They're still making a lot of money, dude.
Yeah. There are a lot of gyms downtown. Go to the Capitol if you're visiting. But it's just like they are still working on the game. They did a poor job of supporting the game right after launch because it was just the same thing for like 9 or 10 months. Oh, it was just not great. But they've started to support it. Apparently the player boom at the beginning, according to their president, put them back like 6 months because they had to like work on their background and like the skeleton of the game.
So let me get a Gyarados, for fuck's sake, man.
I was super into that game when it came out. I'd liked Pokemon a lot, and being able to play it on my phone was fun. But the game sucks. Like all you do is catch Pidgeys. That's like what it encourages you to do is just catch the same.
Murder them and turn them into candy.
Yeah, and then destroy them and feed them to your other.
Well, you can do more than that. If that's all you're choosing to do as a player, that's fine.
To compete in stuff like the gyms and things, you have to beef up some kind of Flareon or something, and it's just a strange grindy game that isn't really that fun. The fun part of it for me was to go around and find new Pokemon. Eventually, all you find is Pidgeys and Rattata. How do you say that?
Here's a question for you though: how good it feel to find a rare Pokemon?
It felt okay until a tourist ran away from me.
Right, but if you had if you just had like different Pokemon all the time, you wouldn't get that reward.
I don't know. Yeah,
it is a design mechanic.
Because the kind of grind of going through it, you're encouraged to just catch the same Pokemon over and over again, which is not in the spirit of the original Game Boy game. I didn't really feel any ownership over my Pokemon because I was just destroying them and turning them into candy. It's just a strange game overall. It definitely was fun to kind of hang out with people and catch Pokemon on my phone, which I turned the camera thing off immediately as well because that was really janky and annoying and framey. It was a really strange game, and it didn't hold my attention for more than like 2 weeks, I think. And I think that's just down to the sort of core design of it as much as anything. I'm sure it's better now though.
All right, and so our last official topic that we have to talk about is modding in general. With tools and information at peak accessibility, game modding is now more popular than ever. However, questions remain over how developers and modders can coexist. Recently, Bethesda announced their new Creation Club, which, despite being strictly advertised as not paid mods, nonetheless made several players nervous. How should developers manage the complex relationship between games and their mods without blocking potentially great content from reaching their players? Start with the devs.
What?
That is such a bag of cats. It's very difficult. A lot of this stuff has always been kind of behind doors, like Steam and different platforms. They take a cut of the sales of the games that we sell. There's all that stuff has always been behind doors, and then when players make mods and they're exposed to that, they're like, wait, what? You're going to take proceeds of my revenue because of just because you own the IP. It's a very complicated thing, and I think the biggest hurdle is the law side, dealing with the legality of everything.
I think another aspect is that today a lot more games are being made with engines like Unity and Unreal rather than these like ad hoc homebrew engines. In the past, those were used a lot more, and if you decided you wanted to support mods with your own engine, then it was up to you to build that integration, and it could be pretty easy to do. The path to doing that with Unity is not straightforward. Haven't really looked at it with Unreal yet, but I would imagine it's not super straightforward either. So you really you're having to go more out of your way than ever as a developer, I think, to build that support in. And with a very small team, sometimes just building the game is all you can manage. So, yeah.
I know with Unreal and Arc specifically, I believe they make their editor like publicly available and all their blueprints and whatnot, and you can just jump in there and just build whatever with that, which is an interesting way to go about things. I don't think you can get their source, but you have access to like
For Unreal?
yeah, or well for Arc, yeah, but I haven't messed around with it too much, but as far as I can tell, it's fairly easy with Unreal.
I think the biggest thing it comes down to is just like you were saying, the communication between devs and the players that are making these mods. Because on the devs end, it's more of okay, how is this going to affect our code? Like recently, Rockstar had that big issue with taking down, I think it was Open4, which is like a big modding tool used for GT Online, where they had an issue of, well, this is affecting our online community, and that's where a lot of our microtransaction models come from, and their defense was, we don't touch online at all with this. Why did you have us take this down and issue, warrant or whatever for it? But I think it's kind of that for the players, it's just when it comes down to, I've played this game over and over again and I want to add something new to it. Kind of going back to when you're playing N64 games with your friends and you want it to be more of a, like, all right, I've done everything I can, let's throw away all of our weapons and just beat the shit out of each other with our hands. And like, that's fun. And that's kind of where modders are coming from. But then when it comes down to, well, you can sell this and make money on it, and players are like, oh shit, that's awesome. And then devs want a small cut. It kind of comes down to, why are you pulling this out entirely?
There's always complications, from a developer standpoint, especially even on the creative side. You don't want your world being, say, you have a very serious game like Gears of War, and it's, someone makes it like, something just like totally crazy where it's like, a children's game.
Kittens of War.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to that as well that complicates things. I think one of the things that would help is actually having the developers actually sit down with the developers and take a look at what they're doing and say if this looks good or not. But then you get away from the modding aspect, and I think that's kind of the fight.
I think the idea of mod developers getting paid for their work is like a good thing, because they are putting work in. They're it may be off the back of somebody else's work, but it's still work nonetheless. And so I think that's good that there's now like a legal avenue for these people to get paid for their work. I think as like a player, though, I think a lot of the reason behind the big controversy between when they last announced paid mods a few years ago was that a lot of these mods that had previously been free, people were now charging for, or some people were even like taking other people's mods and then putting them up on the store and charging for them. So like all that stuff's a little dicey, but I think like and that you definitely have to sit down and figure some of that stuff out. But I think it is good that these people are getting paid. Yeah.
As somebody who's used, I've been modding since Doom 2. That was a big thing in my childhood. Still do it. I think the publishers and main developers of the games in Skyrim's the proof of concept is you get money in your longevity of the game, because no one would still really care about Skyrim if it still wasn't around. I think in an ideal world, although I don't think, because like you said, the people who make these mods should in some way be compensated if at all possible, because they put in hard work, even if it's at somebody else's game. Honestly, if Steam would have come out and they weren't like, hey, it's not paid mods, but when you download the mod, now you have the option to donate to the guy who made it, and we'll take 30%, I'd been like, yeah, cool, great. But instead, they made this entire situation where almost everybody was angry.
Yeah, and specifically with Bethesda, almost every Bethesda game I can think of that's came out, that a month or two afterwards, there's been a giant free mod that fixes a lot of bugs with the game, and none of these are modders expecting to be paid for them, or at least they weren't at the time. And it was, hey, we think this game could be even better than it is, and we're doing this out of goodwill. We really want people to use this, and it's completely free. So it's kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of backhanded to take that thing that some guys made in a garage or whatever out of the goodness of their heart, and then try to slap a price tag on it. Personally.
So we got about 15 minutes left. Do you have any questions from anyone in the audience? We unfortunately lost our walk around mic, so if you wouldn't mind just coming up here. If you have a question, we'll hand the mic off or over.
Never mind.
Come on.
I had a question.
You can just do a line.
Where are our points?
You guys agreed to.
Who's winning?
Your questions weren't inflammatory enough.
So we've heard a lot of your opinions on the Switch, but Zelda sells like 5 million copies. It gets 10 out of 10. So everyone's like, oh, it's awesome. Then Horizon sells like 40 million, just completely eclipses it. But people are still talking about Nintendo. So my question is, what do you think other publishers are going to learn from Nintendo or take from their business model? Or, just what do other companies think about Nintendo? Or your own opinions on what you guys can do with Nintendo's own ideas and like implementing it?
I mean, it feels like Nintendo is Nintendo, and everybody says this every generation because of Mario. They put out Mario every time. They put out Zelda every time. It's that nostalgia. And on their first-party games, they nail it. But the reason like Horizon outsold them is because more people have a way to play that.
There's 80 million PS4s in the world or whatever.
And like 5 Wii U's were sold.
Yeah.
Well, I also think a big reason why Zelda's still being talked about is because of the Switch. Like we don't really have enough time to talk about it during the question, but is Zelda good because it's Zelda, or is Zelda good because it's portable and on the Switch? Like if it was on the Wii U,
let Alan say this.
Yeah,
let's hear this bullshit.
Wrong.
I don't have a Switch. I played Zelda entirely on the Wii U because that's all I had, because I had to bring it from England. It is great. It's a great game. It's really, really good. I think that Nintendo has a special thing, kind of the same thing that Disney or Studio Ghibli or someone has, that they're able to make games for everyone. They're able to make games that everyone enjoys and that have some kind of special magic in them. And I think that's why it's popular and that's why it's so good. And that's why people are talking about it, is because it manages to hit so many notes so right. It definitely does some things wrong, but it's just a very good game. I think that's why people are very excited about it. And there's plenty of things that other companies can learn from Nintendo in that respect.
Yeah, I think people were expecting the same old Nintendo, and then they got a pretty awesome console, in my opinion, with a Zelda game that was not underwhelming, kind of like Skyward Sword or Twilight Princess. Like, those games weren't masterpieces. They were okay, but it's like we finally got an incredible Zelda that we hadn't had in quite a while. So
a lot of innovation in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Breath of the Wild it was a new Nintendo in a sense. Like, they went against a lot of the old conventions they had for Legend of Zelda in general.
They weren't afraid to try new stuff.
Well,
yeah, it showed that.
I could be wrong about this, but I think it was the first different lead designer on a Zelda game in like 20 years or something. So that helps make it a different Zelda game a little bit by itself.
If you look at the sales numbers, like the guy who asked the question was talking about, the Horizon Zero Dawn versus Breath of the Wild, I mean, that's the evidence that you should not release your third-party game on the Switch because it's not going to sell as well. Right?
The devs mentioned it early with early access and the way you did for Grim Eclipse. You went into early access knowing full well what you wanted to put out, and then you went into it, sold that, got to where you are, full release. That was a fairly short timeline for early access. I know myself, I've been playing DayZ since December 2013. That's one of the longest ones in early access. Do you think that the early access system that we have is actually beneficial for developers or even for players getting to see stuff early, play it early? Or do you think it actually hurts the games in the long run because people are seeing them for so long?
I think it depends on the type of game that's in early access. Like DayZ is like the perfect type of game to be in early access. You are adding features to it all the time. It's not a story-based game, so people aren't getting the first quarter of the story and then the next quarter of the story added on later. It's not really ideal. So like DayZ is a great one in early access. Ark is another great example of how you can do an early access game well. It's like the whole game is there, and now they're just kind of bolting on more and more pieces that just make the game better rather than adding new content to the game. We've tried to be in early access for as short of a time as possible because Grim Eclipse was not like that. It was a story-based game, and we were kind of under like short timelines, and we had to get something out by December of 2015, and but it was only the first 4/10 of the story. So we scrambled as quickly as we could to finish that story so that people could experience it as, you know, a contiguous whole thing.
Early access helps developers a lot, though. Find a lot of problems early on. You can pivot if things are not going well. So you always get a better game because of it. Sometimes.
I have a question for y'all devs over there. Steam related, but isn't it true that when you exit early access, doesn't it reinitiate the return period for the game, and that's a big part of it?
That's it. Let's Google it.
Yeah, hit it with a Google. Because from my understanding, I thought that was one of the larger reasons that games like DayZ and many other games are scared of leaving early access is because it'll reinstate their return policy, and then that way they're way far away from their peak player base that they used to be, and they'll have massive returns, and that'll come out of future profit. Yeah, fact check me, please. That's why I was asking developers, because I've been curious about that.
I think if that is the case, people are more likely to forget they own it.
Yeah.
And it'll just sit there, and it won't be as catastrophic as they think it would be.
You guys kind of hit on the mobile market before, how it's, you know, essentially just a giant pile of shovelware, just because how easy it is to make for the format and how much people have such big install base. There's almost no reason not to make a game for it. I mean, other time, resources, but compared to everything else. The other day, I had 3 kids come into my pizza place, and they were just talking so articulately and like about this endless runner. I'm like, guys, it's an endless runner. It's literally as linear as you can get. There's nothing to talk about, but it's almost like I think the install base is maybe smarter than a lot of even devs are giving them credit for. Even just like the 7 or 8 year old kids who are used to just nowhere near what we were used to, which is like, you know, the Marios and stuff. The more seems intelligent now compared to what we have before for kids. But do you think there's ever going to be a time where the mobile market isn't just going to be shovelware, instead it's going to be more thoughtful games that are going to be on the forefront of the marketplace?
I think without like tactile controls, I don't know if it's something that I take really seriously. So I think one of the only mobile games, well, like touchscreen based games that came out that had any sort of I guess that publications really enjoyed was Severed on the Vita, and I just don't see, I can't take them seriously because they are to me just like smaller indie titles or whatever that are going to be out, and maybe if one hits, it'll be hot for 2 weeks and your mom will be playing Candy Crush and shit like that. But I don't know. To me, I just can't take them seriously unless it's like a game with substance and, you know.
Here's my thoughts. It's like you said. I'm sorry, Andy. Did you have something else to add? Okay. Like you said, that younger generation, when they grow up and they want to make games, what did they play? You know, that market is going to grow up and want to make those types of games, and they're going to push that technology further because that's what they grew up with.
We're doomed.
Yeah, we're doomed.
I think it's kind of a question of the context in which you want to play your game. On mobile, you want to play a game for 5 minutes at a time, you know, while you're using the restroom, and you're just not going to have a really serious, deep experience in that amount of time. So the market has trended towards stuff like Candy Crush.
I think it is easier, probably. I mean, I'm not dev. I can't say too much on the development side, but it's probably easier to make those like just quick play games, like you're saying. But like Monument Valley 2 just came out, and that's a pretty
that's a really good example
game.
Yeah. I think Mario Run's success, I mean success in quotes or whatever, along with Fire Emblem's mobile game that came out as well.
Heroes or
I think you're going to see Nintendo keep trying to do that and keep trying to mobilify their properties. So I think there is rumor about a Zelda game coming to whatever that is. It's probably going to be shit.
I think it's because most companies see it and they see the Vegas approach is like something quick and simple that like you can just mindlessly do over and over again that's going to suck money out of you. But then there's game developers that put out something indie like Monument Valley, and it just does really well, and it has more of that like emotional experience.
I just want to say, as somebody who owned both Engages and a Sony Xperia Play, I really wish that mobile gaming on phones could give us something, but I've kind of given up hope on it. I think it's going to be Candy Crush and shit from here on out.
I think we got time for one last question, but I'm sure a few of us will be sticking around if you guys have anything to ask.
This is a question for the developers. Do you guys think in like 5 or 10 years will console gaming still exist, or will things move to console developers being just on the software side like what Sega has done?
No one wants to deal with drivers, and that's why consoles will be around, I think. Like, clearly people give a crap about drivers and their teraflops and their what have yous. But I would rather just put a thing in front of my TV, plug that shit in, and play that game. Of course, I'll have to download it, and it takes 3 hours. But
I think there will always be consoles, or at least for the very perceivable future, there will always be consoles. And this is my personal opinion, but I also don't think PCs are going away anytime soon.
Jesus.
Well, one of the questions was like, the mid-development cycle and whatever. Like, I can upgrade my PC mid-season or, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. It's easy, it's quick, and it's not really that detrimental to me. So, personally, I feel like neither of them is really going to go away, and every few years we're going to keep getting, consoles are killing PCs, or mobile phones are killing consoles, or none of them are going away.
I think we asked this question before this generation, like in late 2012, early 2013. The question was asking like, are consoles going to be dead? And then the PS4 is on track to outsell the PS2. And even though the Xbox is getting destroyed by PS4, it's still outselling. It's still outpacing what the 360 did. And yeah, I don't see them dying anytime soon.
Yeah, when it comes down to those two, it just kind of comes down to a matter of convenience. Like some people just want to come home and sit down in front of their console and play console games. If you want to like match it to a generation, like my dad likes to play video games every now and then, and I will sit him in front of an Xbox and have him play some, Madden or whatever. But I will never tell him to touch the PC because I know that's going to come back to me playing tech support for him.
Yep.
And goes just back to I don't want to touch drivers.
But it's so much prettier. Microsoft's always taken heat for this because they wanted the Xbox One to be this like living room machine, and they took a lot of flack for that up to the release of it. But I don't know. I use my PlayStation 4 primarily not for playing games, for like watching Netflix, for instance, watching YouTube videos.
I get a lot of shit for being a fan of my Kinect for voice controls. Now, I sold my Xbox to Brian, but you know what I did not sell him? I didn't sell him the Kinect because I'm going to keep that shit for the Xbox One X. Like, voice controls on that thing, I'd be on my computer working, and it became my all-in-one machine. Like, I bought it for the exact reason that they sold it on that conference that they bombed in 2013.
Yeah, I think that we're only going to see more of that in the future. It's going to take over more of your living room.
Well, if I could get Alexa in my Sony, like if I could get Alexa on PS4 Pro, I would have bought one like that. Like just snap done. So, yeah.
I think that's a good question to end on. So, can I get a round of applause for these great panelists? Thanks, you guys.
Just real quick, as a father of 5, I've got 2 teenagers that love coding. Of course, they're gamers. They love games. I got my 14-year-old here with me today. And so I just wondered, like, what words of wisdom or helpful advice would you give a father to encourage them? Like, University of Texas, Dallas has great, coding schools and things like that. But it seems my research has been there's this long line of people waiting to kind of get a job in the gaming industry or in animation and things like that. So would you encourage or maybe discourage them from wanting to pursue that as a career?
I know there's a good panel that you should go to tomorrow morning called What to Expect When You're Inspecting. I'm not on it, but Brian is running it. It's
tomorrow at 10, I think in the same room. Yeah. Yep.